A stranger slips into a hotel lobby, a ghost against the gleam of ruthless opulence. Chandeliers glare down like executioners' eyes, and the staff, they're wolves, teeth bared in wicked grins. Lost freak. One snarls, words a tripwire stretched tight. They don't see the spark flare in his shadow, a CEO, a titan veiled in silence, his autism a secret poised to detonate. Mock him, and you light the fuse, but to what? This isn't a story. It's a live wire, crackling with doom they can't dodge. What's he hiding that'll bury them alive? Lean in, because when this explodes, you'll feel the shrapnel. What's he hiding that'll bury them alive? Feel that chill racing up your spine? Where are you caught in this snare, shivering in the dark, or clutching your breath somewhere loud? Tell me in the comments. I need to know where you're braced for the drop. Where you're braced for the drop. The Grand Meridian Hotel does not welcome guests. It swallows them. A monolith of power, wrapped in the illusion of luxury. Its gleaming marble floors mirror the unsuspecting. Its gilded chandeliers drip with a cold, untouchable grandeur. To those who belong, it is an empire of comfort. To those who do not, it is something else entirely. Daniel Hayes steps inside. His movements are precise, small, calculated steps that barely disturb the air. 38 years old, tall but hunched, as if the weight of the world presses into his shoulders. His satchel, a battered leather thing, clings to his side like armor. His eyes, dark, flickering embers, search the room, darting like a trapped animal's. He knows. He always knows. He can feel it before he hears it, like a storm rolling in, heavy with something unseen. The shift in the air, the way the receptionist's fingers tighten around her pen, the way the bellboy, mid-step, hesitates before continuing his path, as if instinct warns him, do not get too close. And then, Trevor, the concierge, the king behind the marble podium, where first impressions become final judgments. Trevor, with his perfectly pressed suit and his ever-so-polished sneer. Trevor sees Daniel the way a wolf sees the weakest in the herd. He sees the restless fidgeting of Daniel's hands, the way his eyes hesitate too long on the intricate gold patterns in the carpet, tracing the shapes over and over in his mind. He sees the slight hitch in his breath, the hesitation in his posture. And like any predator, Trevor smells vulnerability. He leans forward, voice wrapped in silk but dripping venom. Can I help you? A question so simple. But oh, how the sharp edges of it dig into Daniel's skin. Daniel swallows. The words catch in his throat before stumbling out. Fragile, uncertain. I need to check in. And just like that, the trap snaps shut. The moment the words leave his lips, the shift is instant. Trevor's eyes gleam, a spark of something cruel catching flame. His lips twitch, and from somewhere behind him, a ripple of laughter. A slow, crawling thing that spreads, infects. It reaches the receptionist, the bellboy, the lobby attendant polishing the counter. Soft at first, like the hush of a blade drawn from its sheath. Then louder, meaner, laughter. Daniel hears it. Of course, he hears it. He hears everything. The muffled whispers, the sharp-edged smirks passed between knowing glances, the way their amusement curls around his throat like a noose, tightening, pulling, squeezing. Masterpiece, Trevor murmurs, just loud enough for the others to hear. Mocking, dismissive, sealing Daniel's fate as the night's entertainment. And yet, something shifts. The laughter, the smirks, the careless cruelty, it should wound him. It should flay him open, like it always has. But not tonight. Not this time. Not here. Because tonight, Daniel does not look away. He does not shrink. He does not fumble or apologize or disappear inside himself the way they expect him to. Instead, his stare locks onto Trevor. And for the first time, Trevor falters. For the first time, something about this quiet, awkward man unsettles him. Because Daniel's eyes, once uncertain, once flickering, once fragile, are no longer embers. They are steel, cold, unrelenting. And in that silence, in that eerie, deafening stillness where Daniel does not blink, does not move, does not break, something awakens. Something Trevor and the others never considered, never even imagined. Something that coils in the air between them like a waiting storm. What is Daniel clutching in that silence? What is buried beneath the weight of years spent enduring laughter just like this? What does he hold? What fire, what reckoning, what unseen weapon that will soon make them regret ever speaking his name? The answer looms, unspoken, unrevealed, but it is coming. Oh, it is coming. And by the time they realize what they have done, it will be far, far too late. Night falls, but the Grand Meridian does not rest. It looms against the skyline, a beast draped in velvet, its veins pulsing with whispered malice. The chandeliers flicker like gilded stars, casting shadows that stretch long and hungry across marble floors. The air is thick, pregnant with something unspoken, something on the verge of birth. And somewhere within its opulent corridors, past the gilded doors and suffocating wealth, Daniel Hayes paces. His suite is vast, but space does not comfort him. It never has. The walls press in. The air crawls. The silence is a living thing, wrapping around him, whispering, reminding. This is not new. This has always been his life. The sneers, the laughter, the way the world does not make room for him but crushes him instead, forces him into corners, into quiet, into invisibility. But he does not retreat tonight. No, tonight, something simmers. A storm, black and thick, coiling behind his ribs. He grips the edge of the desk, knuckles white, breath shallow. His mind, a wildfire, spinning, calculating, burning. Below, where the marble floors gleam and the air is perfumed with wealth, they gather. Trevor's pack, eyes sharp with wicked amusement, fingers twitching with anticipation. They want more. Mockery is never enough. It must escalate. It must be a spectacle. And so they plot. Let's snap him, one whispers, a grin curling like a blade. Their cruelty is not loud. It is insidious, creeping in through the cracks, a slow poisoning rather than a single stab. And when the plan is set, they move as one. Daniel's dinner arrives. A silver dome lifted with ceremony, revealing not the promised steak, not the fine-cut meal befitting a man of his status, but peas. A mountain of them. Green, mocking, deliberate. And worse, a glisten, a taunt, a silent, spit-soaked declaration. You are nothing. The snicker rises before they can choke it back. Trevor, at a nearby table, smirks into his glass, fingers tightening around the stem like he's already savoring Daniel's reaction. Except, there isn't one. Daniel does not lurch back in disgust, does not fumble for words, does not retreat into himself the way they expect him to. Instead, his hands quake, not with weakness, but with something else entirely. Something raw, something ancient, something that has lain dormant beneath years of silent endurance, years of swallowing words that should have been spoken, years of forced stillness when he should have fought back. The tremor spreads up his arms, over his shoulders, into his chest. His pulse is a drumbeat of reckoning. And then, his phone lifts. A breath, a whisper, a vow. It's time. The words are knives, honed to precision, slipping through the air with deadly intent. Across the room, Trevor's smirk fades, because there is something different now. A shift in the air, a current of unease slithering under the laughter, curling around their ankles, pulling. And then, the phone, still pressed to Daniel's ear, crackles to life. A voice on the other end. Low, sharp, hungry. Something beyond the line stirs. Waiting, watching. Something that does not laugh. Something that has been waiting for Daniel's call. And in the growing silence, in the thick, suffocating quiet where even the walls seem to lean in, Trevor feels it. A cold breath against the back of his neck. A presence. A promise. A thing unseen. And for the first time tonight, the laughter stops. Because something is coming. Something they cannot see. Something they cannot stop. And the clock is a heartbeat, thudding to ruin. The sky is bleeding. Dawn carves through the horizon, a blade unsheathed, slashing through the night's deceit. The Grand Meridian stands on the precipice of a reckoning, its golden facade shimmering under the first light, a temple of arrogance, moments from collapse. And inside, Trevor sleeps soundly, oblivious, his world still whole, still pristine, still untouched by the ruin creeping toward him. He wakes with a smirk. Another day to revel in power, to drink deep from the well of cruelty, to toy with those beneath him. Because to Trevor, there is always a beneath. But not today. Today, the world tilts. It begins with a sound. Screech. A black car. Sleek. Merciless. A bullet streaking toward impact. The tires wail as it halts before the hotel's grand entrance. A predator that has arrived at last. The doors fly open. Elena Cortez emerges. She is a tempest in human form. Her presence a rolling thunder, a hurricane bearing down. Her heels strike the marble like gunfire. Her coat whips behind her, a banner of war. And her voice is a cannon. Where is Daniel Hayes? Trevor blinks. Daniel? His lips curl. The absurdity of it makes him laugh. The fool. He drawls, leaning lazily against the desk. He doesn't even bother hiding his contempt. He jerks his chin toward the elevator. Upstairs, probably still licking his wounds. He expects laughter to ripple around him, the usual chorus of agreement, the pack mentality that has always protected him. But there is only silence. Because Elena Cortez is not laughing. Her gaze locks onto him, molten steel, a force of nature that does not suffer fools. And then, that fool, she breathes, voice sharp as broken glass, owns this pit. Everything stops. The lobby freezes. The air turns to stone. Trevor feels it before he understands it. That split-second shift. That unnatural stillness. The way every fiber of reality bends, contorts, collapses. He swallows. What? Elena's lips curl into something cruel. Every stone. Every inch of gold you strut across. Every paycheck you hold in your filthy hands. You have been spitting on the very man who built the ground you stand on. Daniel Hayes. CEO. Founder. Owner. Your God. Your doom. And then the truth drops like a blade, slicing through the last shreds of Trevor's reality. The blood drains from his face. His limbs turn to lead, and the weight of what he has done crashes down upon him like a gallows drop. It is no longer a question of if he will fall, only how far. And then, from the elevator, a chime, a pause, a moment stretched beyond time, and Daniel steps forth. Not the man they mocked, not the nervous, hesitant figure they spat on, but a reaper in the morning haze. His eyes, no longer flickering embers, no longer searching, no longer uncertain, are fire, unyielding, absolute. Trevor's breath shudders. His lips part, fumbling for words, for excuses, for salvation. But there is none, because Daniel Hayes is no longer a man to be laughed at. He is their judge, and in this moment, their executioner. And then he speaks. Soft. Final. A fuse burned to ash. You had your fun, Trevor. Now it's my turn. And as the world tilts, as reality caves, as Trevor's legs weaken beneath him, the blast begins. The lobby is a gallows. The weight of reckoning presses down like an anvil, thick in the air, filling every space, every breath, every unsaid word. No one moves. No one speaks. The Grand Meridian, once a stage for arrogance and cruelty, is now a silent, trembling temple, awaiting its judgment. And at its center, Daniel Hayes. He does not storm. He does not rage. He moves like a specter, a quiet force, more terrifying than fury itself. The man they mocked, the man they spat on, the man they reduced to nothing in their eyes, now holds their fates in his hands. Trevor, once so smug, so untouchable, staggers back. His breath comes in ragged, uneven bursts, like a man teetering on the edge of an abyss. And he is. Because Daniel steps closer, each footfall echoes. Slow, inevitable. Trevor's mouth quivers, words scrambling for escape, for salvation. Sir, I didn't. A lie, broken before it's even spoken. Daniel tilts his head, gaze unreadable. Then his hand rises, not in violence, not in mercy, but in a pause, a deliberate moment stretched across eternity, a hangman's breath before the drop. And then, his voice cuts through the stillness, a whisper sharp as razors. You didn't. The words coil around Trevor's throat, a wire pulled taut. Daniel's gaze doesn't waver, doesn't blink. You carved me open for sport. A sentence. A scalpel. A mirror shoved into their faces, forcing them to see. And they do. The weight of what they've done, of what they've always done, crushes them. Their shame thickens the air, a noose tightening. Eyes lower, back stiffen. The realization is sinking in now. They're exposed. And you taste it too. The dread of their fall. The raw, gut-wrenching terror of standing on the edge and realizing this is it. Daniel could end them, could shatter their futures, their reputations, their very lives. They deserve it. And maybe, just maybe, that's what he'll do. But then, snap, the rope twists. A stack of folders hits the counter. The sound is deafening. A guillotine's thud. Trevor flinches. The staff stare. Their minds race, bracing for the final blow. And then, Daniel speaks. Low, unshaken, absolute. Training. The word hangs. An answer they did not expect. A verdict they cannot comprehend. Daniel's gaze burns through them. Learn me, or rot. The choice is theirs. Not a punishment. A test. A lifeline, dangling over the abyss they dug for themselves. Their fates no longer rest in Daniel's hands. They rest in their own. Will they take it? Will they rise? Or will they plunge deeper, too blind to see the redemption stretch before them? The verdict. A heartbeat away. Don't breathe yet. Twilight bleeds over the Grand Meridian. Gold spills from the horizon, stretching long shadows across the marble floors, seeping into corners once shrouded in arrogance and decay. And now the hush settles. Not the hush of peace. Not the hush of relief. The hush before a scream. Trevor sits hunched at the concierge desk, his once perfect suit wrinkled, his breath shallow. His hands clutch a training manual, his lifeline, his shackle. His eyes dart over the words, lips moving in silent repetition, but they do not read. Because how do you study the man you spend your life crushing? How do you understand the mind you mocked, dissect the brilliance you discarded? How do you face the ghost of your own cruelty and beg it to teach you? Around him, the hotel pulses. Guests swarm the lobby, the hushed voices of powerful figures, drawn here not for leisure, but for legend. Whispers slither through the air. Daniel Hayes, the man they scorned, the man who turned venom into victory. And above it all, watching from the rooftop terrace, Daniel. His silhouette stands against the city skyline, the wind catching his coat, the world stretching endlessly before him. A man who was once their joke, now their legend. A beacon, burning against the night. His difference, his autism, his scars, the very essence they ridiculed, is now his crown. Forged in fire, unbreakable. But as he stands there, high above the wreckage of their cruelty, something flickers. Not relief, not satisfaction, something else. A whisper in the silence, a shadow in his gaze. Because this is not the end. This is the beginning. Of what? A scheme, vast and veiled. A force, coiling in the dark, unseen, waiting, watching. Because Daniel Hayes does not forget. And he does not stop. So, for now, savor this. Breathe in the triumph. Feel the weight of the moment. But listen closely. The embers glow beneath the ashes. Something's still coming. And when it does, the world will never be the same. We're left gasping, teetering on the edge. What's still gnawing at you? Daniel's coiled rage, their unraveling, or that grace that struck like lightning? Hurl into the comments. I'm starved for your pulse. If this seared you, hit like, subscribe, and fling it to someone teetering too. What's Daniel brewing in the void? Stay snared. The next spark's already hissing. The next spark's already hissing. A tight, ominous nudge toward the unknown.